Another important question that I would like you to think about is, okay, once you have a good piece of materials in your hands, then how to teach, right? How to teach? Let's look at this. Ask yourself, my dear fellows, okay, teachers, ask yourself sincerely. Number one, which teaching method should I use? I means you, okay? Which teaching methods should I use? Indy, which one should you use? Indy, which one? Which one? Okay? Ask yourself. And question number two, which method is the best? Which method, which technique is the best? Can you find the answers? We'll see. Well, I would like you to keep yourself calm now and look at the screen carefully. Let me read this one slowly for you. Okay? While I'm reading this text, please think at the same time. According to academic research, linguists have demonstrated that there is not one single best method for everyone in all contexts. Let me repeat it. There is not one single best method for everyone in all contexts. And that no one teaching method is inherently superior to the others. You see? So also it is not always possible or appropriate to apply the same methodology to all learners who have different objectives, environments, and learning needs. You see, this is the key. All right? So, please consider applying the most appropriate method for that learner's specific objectives, learning style, and context. Let me repeat it again. Consider applying the most appropriate method for that learner's specific objectives, learning style, and context. You see? Because you know your learners much better than somebody else, right? If you know, for example, you know your daughter, you know your nephew, you know your son very, very well. So you should be able to know which method is appropriate for that person, right? And you should be able to know what sort of activities or the techniques that you should use in order to train that person to be better. You see what I mean? Now, let me give you just some examples of teaching methodologies. I believe that you guys here are familiar with these methodologies. For example, grammar translation, which is the classic method, right? Classical method, or direct method, or audiolinguism, and many more, including the communicative language teaching, yes, CLT. It sounds very fancy, right, to many of you here. Okay. Now, let me share with you more. Okay. Let's look at this example. For example, if you choose communicative language teaching as the method, right, for your classes, or CLT, then you have to focus on interaction, authentic communication, and negotiation meaning. So you have to design the activities, right, to make sure that the students in your class will interact with each other, okay, not just between themselves or among themselves, but maybe between the teacher, you yourself, and the learners as well, okay? And the target goal is for the learners to understand of English through active student interaction, right? They may ask to do some role plays or maybe games or information gap and stuff like that, okay? Or in your community, maybe there is a very good tourist attraction, for example, Koh Sampi Forest Park, for example, and you really want your learners to present that in, let's say, local tourist attraction to the world, all right? And of course, at the same time, you would like the learners to be proud of themselves, introducing their own community, you may use content-based or task-based or participatory approaches, okay, for your class. Let's say you may have to consider what is being communicated, not structure of English. It means that your focus may be on like encouraging the learners, right, to use English, but you don't want the learners to be worried so much about the grammar or the vocabulary, okay? And then you would like to gain the confidence of the learners so that they will feel at ease when they use English. And for the materials, you may think about the contents based on relevance to students' lives. Like I just gave you some example. Okay, Go Sampi, Forest Park, or maybe the Emerald Buddha if you live in Bangkok, okay, or any temples at all in that local area. And then the students may be getting involved in thinking about the topics, or maybe designing the task, or maybe sharing some ideas of how to solve certain problems. You see, this is just some idea, okay? Which one to use? It really depends on you, all right? Now, for some people, okay, for some teachers, you may like to consider learning strategy training or cooperative learning and multiple intelligences. You know this one, right? Different learners have different personalities, different characteristics, right? Some learners may be good at seeing things. They will learn better when they see pictures, for example. But some learners will learn better when they hear something, right? But some students will learn much better when they act, when they move. You see, you know your learners, right? Much more than other people. So when you design the activities, you have to focus on how those learners learn, all right? So the activities can vary, and you may have to think about, teach learning strategies, okay? Okay, if you, for example, hey, your group is good at speaking, so you may ask that group of the learners, right, to speak. But some students would love to draw pictures, for example, or would like to do something, to do crafts, for example. You may ask that group of learners to do like paintings, drawing, or making things, you see? And some group of learners may be good at taking notes because they learn much better from listening. You may assign them to be like a secretary role, in the classroom to take notes, of the friends when they give a presentation in the class. You see, you will design the learning strategies for the learners, all right? And you may also consider the cooperation and also activities can vary, right, according to different intelligence of your learners. Games can be used, okay, but not everyone in the class loves games. You have to make sure that games is appropriately used, not too much, okay? And sometimes you may have to ask the learners to do some activities to present in front of the class and ask the rest of the learners in the class to learn from them. By to learn from them, I do mean that you as a teacher don't have to be the person who evaluate the performance. You may ask the learners or the peers, to act like commentators, to evaluate the performance of their peers so that they can learn, from their friends' performance as well. You see what I mean? Right. As you can see, no particular method is the best. Let me repeat it. No particular method is the best. Therefore, it's our job, okay? Your job, my job, right, as an English teacher, to observe, okay? Number one is to observe your own setting and your context. By setting, it means you have to consider the atmosphere in the classroom or in the school, or the characteristics of your learners, right? The context itself, whether you can access to the internet easily or not. All right. So you have to know this context and setting well before you design, further activities. Then number 2, once you know your learners, your context, your settings, you have to adopt, adapt, and develop materials. Okay? Adopt, adapt, develop, with 3 letters, right? A-D, add. You should know how to add materials, right? Again, adopt means to take certain pieces of materials from somewhere else, okay, related to your own setting and your context, right? Maybe it can be taken from online resources, maybe, or maybe from commercial textbook, maybe, yeah? And then adapt it, right? And develop. By developing, it means that you have to create your own, you see? So kind of combination here. It really depends on you and your setting. Now, number 3, whatever you have in hand, not 100% to be applied, right? You have to be flexible, right? When you implement the materials, when you implement the certain teaching methods in your situation, you have to observe, right? And notice, and you have to be flexible until your learners reach their goals. Okay? If they observe that this activity is not good for this group of the learners, okay, let me try something new. You see? Just adopt, adapt, develop, and then be flexible. You see? This is a kind of cyclical process. It's very important for you to be very active here. All right? Right. So supposing that you have everything in your mind now and in your hand now, let me share with you an idea for material creation here. Okay. Number 1, you should have clear purpose or the scope, right? For example, you have a certain list of vocabulary or grammar, according to each level of CEFR, maybe B2 or A2, yeah. You can search for a list of vocabulary and grammar structure for each certain level from different sources. Online, yeah, is helpful as well. Now, number 2, think about the skills. Okay, 4 skills. Remember, exposure, to English is very important for learners. So you have to design your material in order that it covers all these 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Okay, all the tasks and exercises must cover all these skills. And then number 3, combination. Okay, put things together, and then importantly, you have to consider PLC or PLT, right? You need team in order to help evaluate the materials you created, right? In order that they can help criticize, they can help analyze, okay, whether it's good or bad, and then discuss. Okay, by discussing, I mean that this group of people should be able to help you evaluate the vocabulary or the grammar or the context, whether it's authentic or not. Okay, and also consider the activities for teaching and learning. And lastly, employ suitable methods for your own setting. It can be CLT, it can be contents-based, it can be, any teaching methods. It really depends on you, all right? So PLC, PLT must be considered here so that your created materials is, in a good quality. And of course, many people can make use of it in the future as well. Right. We have everything now in hand, right? So on my part here, I would like to share with you some sort of examples. Okay, so let's experience some activities to develop the following skills like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Okay, and for the remaining sessions, you will see that for listening tasks or speaking tasks, we have many ideas, to share with you, and for the reading and writing part as well. So I would like you to stay tuned, okay? Take notes. If you have some questions or any comments or any feedback at all, feel free to share, to ask with us, okay?